stopping by for another video. If this video is of any help and you want to support the channel, please take a quick moment to subscribe and drop a comment and a like. Today we are tying up a Kreelex variant using Flashabou. In the vise we have a Partridge of Redditch CS51/SEP hook. It's a Predator streamer hook in size 6. And we're going to go ahead and get some small plated silver dumbbell lead eyes on the hook. So go ahead and use some crossing wraps over the top. Go back and forth, get that locked into place. And then do some wraps under the eyes and over the hook to tighten your thread in place. I'm going to adjust it just a little bit because it wasn't quite centered on the hook. Go ahead and do a couple dots of super glue to help lock that into place and do some additional wraps to better lock that into place. Do some additional wraps underneath the eyes and over the hook to tighten your thread wraps. And this will create a pretty solid base for those eyes to not spin or fall off the hook. I'm going to let that dry for just a moment so that I don't get my fingers all super gluey. Now we'll grab some silver speckled Flashabou, and I've taken it, cut it straight off the hank, and then I cut it in half. And I'm going to put a smidge more than a hook length of Flashabou to extend past the end of the hook. The front end's going to be a little bit unruly. Just make sure you manage that carefully to not trap any of the fibers of Flashabou in the wrong direction. So we'll wrap our thread all the way back to the bend of the hook. And then for consistency's sake, we're going to grab a spare size 6 hook, so the same length of the hook, and we're going to measure that up against the back of the fly and use that as our guideline to cut our Flashabou the same length. And when you trim this off, you'll have little pieces of Flashabou everywhere. Be ready to vacuum and clean those off, or you're going to end up with glittery fingers and face and clothes. So wrap your thread forward in spiral wraps to get back to the right behind the eye of the hook, or right in front of the lead eyes behind the eye of the hook. And you're going to want to go ahead and do a couple of catching wraps. See, I got my fibers all messed up here. Let me get that one loose. Try this again. Get the thread in front of the dumbbell eyes. And then do 2 loose wraps while holding on to the Flashabou. And then lock it into place. That way you're not having it spin every which direction on you. Now, keeping those fibers on top of the hook, go ahead and wrap forward till you have about half of an eye length of space between your the end of your wraps and the eye of the hook. Go ahead and fold back about half of the material and tie that down, and then grab the remainder and tie that into place with some tight wraps and cover up your butt section. Then you'll fold everything back over the eyes and put it in between the groove of the lead eyes and do 10 wraps of thread to lock that into place. Then move forward again. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and cut that right about halfway between the bend of the hook and the end of our Flashabou, and it will splay out a little bit, and that's completely normal and fine. And from here we're going to go ahead and grab some gold speckled Flashabou and cut it off the hank of Flashabou and then split it in half again. And we're going to go ahead and wrap that around our thread so that we can tie it in. Let's go ahead and invert the hook, makes things a little bit easier here. So wrap it around your thread, gather up some of the loose thread so it's easier to tie in, Had a little bit too much slack to start right there. So wrap that into place and kind of split the Flashabou so it goes on both sides of the hook. Preen that back. Catch that down and cover up your butt section and build up a little bit of a taper if you can. And now we'll go ahead, preen everything back, grab our whip finish tool, and add in a whip finish. We're going to be covering this entire head up with UV resin, so we don't need to tie in a second whip finish on this fly. And then we're going to flip everything back around and grab all of our gold fibers. I'm going to pull them over to the side of the hook and measure them so they're the same length as our silver Flashabou. Trim that off. Get everything put back into place and brush off all the loose fibers that are now stuck to your fingers. From here, we're going to go ahead and coat our thread wraps with UV resin. I'm using Raid Zap thin resin, but use any thin resin that you can spread and cover these wraps up with. Spread any of the excess around. Just make sure everything's nice and covered so we can get some added durability. And then grab your UV torch and get that resin to cure. And now we're going to go ahead and cover those 10 thread wraps with a small dot of resin, and then cover the Flashabou that's in between the eyes so that it has durability there as well. And then grab our UV light and finish off the fly. The Kreelex has been a super popular bass pattern. It's now available on the shop. If you want it tied up in different colors, go ahead and hit me up. Please take a moment to subscribe and comment on the video. Thank you. Bye-bye.